Lamentations chapter 3 from verses 21 to 23. This I recall to my mind, therefore have I hope. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. Our theme this morning is finding hope in the midst of nothingness. How can one find hope when those that he saw as something have all of a sudden become nothing? When the value he once saw in life, when the value he once saw in things around his life have all of a sudden become valueless. How can one find hope when all the beauty of life, when everything he once finds strength and joy and comfort and happiness and hope in, all of a sudden becomes ashes in his hands and like chaff that the wind should blow away? How can we find hope in our present moment, in our present circumstances? Is hope such a lofty idea? Is hope something that is far away? Is hope something that is in the heaven that we need someone else to bring it down to us? Is hope in the graves? Is hope beyond the sea? No, we can find hope even in nothingness. Jeremiah finds himself in circumstances that were so painful. He finds himself in an environment that has overnight become hopeless. Everything that he had boasted of as a Jew, as an Israelite, everything that even the scriptures had pointed to as things that were of value to the Israelites had all of a sudden lost meaning. Not because he chose to look at them from that perspective, but because the circumstances no longer allowed him as a servant of God to have hope in those things. Not because those things still continued in existence, but because those things all of a sudden ceased from existence. When he looked at the temple of God, the temple that King Solomon had built, the most magnificent temple of those times, and even that which God had said, I will place my name on it. All of a sudden, the place that God had said, I will place my name on it, had been raised down by fire. Its vessels of gold, of silver, and bronze, and those that were precious, taken away into the land of the captive. And when he looked at the kingdom, Judah was no longer a kingdom, for the king had been taken away. His throne had fallen. There was no longer a crown nor a title to him as a king. The princess, the royal family, the nobility of Judah was no longer there. Every person who the people could look up to for instruction, including the priests, the Levites, the scribes, had all been taken captive. The merchants, the silversmiths, the coppersmiths, the ironsmiths, all those smiths in the land of Israel had been taken away as captives. What remained was just the poor people whom no one could look up to. Their olive trees had been burnt down. Their vineyards had been destroyed by the enemy. Their wheat had been taken away. Their barley had been burnt. And when Jeremiah also looked at the royal cities of Judah, when he looked at the cities of refuge which the kings of Judah had built aforetime, so that when an enemy would come, people who were within the city could run and even find refuge in those cities had already been burned. That means that those who remained in Judah were at the mercies of the enemy. They could not find a place to hide themselves. How do you find hope when the one who established and founded you allows you to be brought down? When the one who built you up is the one who also allows you to be torn down. Jeremiah, as a servant of God, finds himself in that hopelessness. And maybe you too, as a servant of God, when you consider your life, when you look at the things you had vested your energy, when you look at the things that you had invested your lifetime into them, when you look at the things you had invested your monies into them, today they have lost value and meaning, not because you have chosen to view them as so, but it's because all of a sudden they have been destroyed. Probably when you look at your family, something that you hoped in, something that you knew you could run to in the time of trouble, it is no longer there. It has been broken. It is just pieces. You can't piece them back together. When you look at your children, maybe some of them right now, they are into drug and substance abuse. Maybe some of them right now, they have dropped out of school. People whom when you looked at, you could say, I have a hope for tomorrow. But today, when you look at them, there is no longer that hope. Maybe it is your busyness. You invested so much time, money, and today when you look at it, it does not seem as though you had invested. Maybe you've taken a loan. The banks are on your neck. The creditors, each and every morning, a day can't go by without them calling. How can you have hope when something that you could cling to becomes nothing, just like a puff of air into your hands that you cannot cleft your hands and hold? How can you find hope when the things in life that seemed like flowers have all of a sudden become like withered leaves that are dropping down, that only need to be burnt? How again can you find hope? Jeremiah, in the midst of his hopelessness, says that there's one thing I can recall, and I have hope again. Many times what hinders us from having hope is not what we have lost. It is not what has been destroyed. What hinders us from having hope is what is in our minds, is what we recall. If I recall of hopeless situations, the more those hopeless situations will make me to be hopeless. If I recall of things that have been destroyed, the more my life will become miserable, and the more faith will diminish from me, because faith is the substance of things hoped for. And if my mind is full of hopeless things, then that means I have a substance of hopelessness. Jeremiah says, I recall this, and then I have hope. He says it is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed. Even though things have been consumed, even though other people have been consumed, even though jobs have been consumed, even though business crumble and collapse, even though our high moments are no longer there, yet there is one thing that in the midst of hopelessness, in the midst of situations of destruction, still remains standing tall: the mercies of God. They don't fail. They begin anew each and every morning. Families can never begin anew. Jobs can never begin anew. Business can never begin anew. They always crumble. But the mercies of God, they begin anew. When you begin setting your mind on things that don't fail, even so your hope will not fail. But when you set your mind on things that are failing, so will your hope also fail. For the strength of your hope is in what you are hoping in. The stronger the thing you hope on, the stronger your faith. The unfailing the thing you hope on, the unfailing your hope will be. But if you have a hope that is based on things that corrode with time, on things that are eroded, whose value is eroded with time, so will your hope also erode with time. Jeremiah had looked at things that all of a sudden were destroyed, but he chooses to shift his focus from those things that were destroyed into something that he could cleave to, into something that he could still cling to, an anchor that was still remaining: the mercies of God.